All right, so now I want to look at those boreholes, the Excel spreadsheet for the boreholes. Now there are two that have been converted into CSV files, which by the looks of things we can happily import into QGIS. Just having a look at them now. The latitude and longitude values look fine, and they are numbers, which is all good, and it's got a site ID, so that one will be good. And this one for the surveyed sites, we've got successful sites and surveyed sites. Surveyed sites looks the same. But if we have a look at the Excel spreadsheet, this is the one you're looking to color up on yield. So you're looking to color up on the quantities. So like the quantities between, let's say, a yield of 15 liters per second to 15 liters per second are colored differently to lower yields. So we need to bring this in as a Excel spreadsheet, well, as a CSV as well. So we're going to first of all, we need to make sure that the values for the longitude and latitude are correct. And if we're having a look at these, you see this little what is this little triangle in the top left-hand corner of each of these cells? That indicates that that value has been seen as text. Now it can't be seen as text if you're looking to bring the point in using its longitude and latitude. So what we need to do is we need to go in, and you'll see there's a comma there. If we delete that comma and then enter, it's gone. Okay, so we see that little green triangle disappears. So we just need to do that for all of them, just to make sure that the program will see it as text and not as a, well, sorry, backwards. I got that backwards. We'll see it as a number and not as text. Okay, so we need to import the number, not the text. So I'm just going to continue and edit the rest of these quickly. And this is what it should look like. So now I've converted all of the text into numbers, and that we can now export as a CSV, which we'll then be able to bring into QGIS. So I want to save this as a CSV, so I'm going to save as, and then just make sure I choose the right CSV format, and that is the correct one. You see there's a couple other ones, just make sure you choose the right one, and I'm going to put it in here. Save as CSV, correct. There we go. So now we should be able to bring that into QGIS. Alright, so where are we? Let's go to our QGIS project. And we want to add a delimited text layer. And I need to make sure I choose the right one. So it's in here. Under tables, and I called it edit, the edit folder, and this is it. And if we quickly have a look at it, this looks right. Okay, it looks like it's reading it correctly. And I assume the EPSG is 4326, but that you would need to get from the GPS or whoever captured it. But I think we can safely assume that that's probably the right coordinate reference system. So let's just click add and see what happens. Okay, so some boreholes have come through. I'm just going to change the color because they're not very distinctive at the moment. Let's make them maybe make them blue. If I can turn off my household layer, we can see them even better. Okay, so there they are. And now, if we open the attribute table for this layer, you'll see that if the values inside a field are aligned left, that generally means the program is seeing it as a string or text, and if it's aligned right, the program is seeing it as a number. So if we're looking to color up on the quantities of the yield, it has to be a number, otherwise it won't quantify the text. And if we're looking at it, it's justifying the text on the right hand side of the margin of the field at least. So those are values that we can use. Those are numbers. Okay, great. So that's what we're going to use. So we can close this down. So one of the questions was, or the option to be able to color up on those values. So what I'm going to do is first of all duplicate this layer, and you'll see why in a moment. This one, actually we can change, you can rename it. What should we call it? Let's just call it boreholes. Okay, we'll turn that on. It's the exact same color. And then what we'll do is we'll color up and maybe change the size as well. Quickly change the size for that. Let's change it up to 3. Okay. And then we'll color up on this one. Okay, so now this is the top one that we're going to color up on. So we want to choose graduated to graduate the color, and then we're going to select the column to graduate on, and the field values is what we will use. And let's just go choose pretty breaks. You can choose any one of these different types of quantifying your values. We're going to choose pretty breaks. We'll change the classes down to 4, let's say, and then you can see you can even go in here and type in the values you prefer. So if you didn't like these values, you can just double click and then just come and change them from 1 to 6. And the clever thing with this program is you don't have to then edit the value beneath, because it assumes that it can only go from 6 to 10 if you've changed this to 6. So for instance, that was 5. You're not going to go 1.2 to 6 and then 5 to 10, because then you've got an overlap between 5 and 6. So when you change one value, the next value down will automatically change. So I'll just change this back to 5. Oops, let's change this back to 5. And you'll see that value also changes back to 5. And I think we'll just change the size up 1 so that it matches the size of the borehole one we set out. And we can say, ooh, not that one. Oh, what's going on here? Let's just classify this again. I'm going to change the size to 3. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now those sizes are 3, same as that one. If we click apply and OK, then you'll see that there are a couple blue ones. Now, the blue ones are because there's no value for that particular borehole. So there's no yield value for that borehole. So that's why I've got 2 layers that are identical and one on top of the other. If you click on this one, just select it and click on it, and you'll see that there's a null value for the yield. So that's why it's colored up in blue. So you can choose to actually turn those off completely so you don't see them, but I like to be able to see values that aren't rendered, just so I know that there is a bit of an issue here. We need to go and maybe collect the values for those fields. So coloring up on the yield, we can see that this borehole down here has probably got the highest yield, and it looks like 20, and then the lighter shade boreholes have got a much lower yield, 1.2, 2.5, 4. So everything below 5 is colored up white, and then the graduating color will change depending on what the yield for those boreholes is. And that's how you can color up on the yield for the borehole. Okay, so now what if you want to see the table on a map for these boreholes? So let's start off by creating a little map. We'll just call it A4. We'll just call it A4. And then I'm just going to make this bigger so we can see what's going on. Add our little map to our project. And this is where you would choose your own settings depending on the template or the layout that you wanted to see. And here we've got our boreholes, etc. And then there's an option down here to add a new attribute table for the layout. So if you select that, you drag a box up here, then you'll see it just adds, it just adds a table, okay? And then we need to tell it which layer to use for the table. So if we source the households layer, that's the one it's going to add. But we want to choose which one was called successful site GPS. So you'll see those values now change. And if we make it slightly bigger, there we go. Okay, so now there are the boreholes for our CSV that we added. And there's a couple other things you can do from a formatting point of view. You can go to the attributes and you can say, let's sort on, what shall we do? So let's sort on yield ascending. Okay, so there we go, yield ascending. So now we know that the lowest value, so these values which were actual null should be probably discounted from this table. So I think we can do that too. Let's see, advanced customization. What else? Attributes. Are there any other values we can set your layer? Variable. So you can go through and then just figure out how to exclude values and add values, and I think I can figure it out. So what's this filter with option here? So if I say, maybe I can say yield must be more than, so I'm going to go greater than 0, Okay, so it's not greater than or equal to, it's just greater than naught. So anything that's got a yield of more than naught. Okay, so now the yield of naughts have all been kicked out. And then if I sort again, I should be able to sort again. Oh, that's still sorted. Yeah, that's still sorted on smallest to biggest. Okay. There's a couple other things. I think what you can do is customize the colors. So you can go every even column, change it to like a light gray. What does that look like? Okay, so that's for columns. So maybe that doesn't look that good. But for rows, even rows, for instance, we can make like a light gray or something. Okay, so you can sort of see what's going on. And yeah, you can just play around with this. Now that is one way to add a table to your project. Now I haven't figured this out, and maybe you can, to basically color up the same as the color that you've set out in your legend. So if we had our little legend down here somewhere, where's our legend? Let's stick our legend down here, and maybe remove all this stuff. Let's just auto update. Remove all of this. Okay, so now we've got a legend for the, let's just call this legend. Okay, that's a bit ugly, but anyway. So the idea here is if you wanted only, in your actual table, you wanted the background colors to sort of be formatted to be the same as this, then I think what you would need to do is do that in an Excel spreadsheet and then save it out as an image in a package, in a image package. So if I open up my image package, I'm just going to let that open up in the background. And then if I open up my Excel spreadsheet, the original one, I can bring all that data in. I think that should be fine. So let's just sort this on yield. So I want to sort that on yield, smallest to biggest. Yeah, that's fine. And then maybe we don't need these. Delete those, okay. And then I'm just going to save this, save it as, and call it something else, because otherwise it is going to be confusing. And I'm going to delete my original data, which I don't want to do, so I'm just calling it edit. Now see, this one doesn't have, if I look at the formatting, it doesn't have a table boundary, so I'm just going to go down here and just make sure that everything's got a border. Okay, so now if we have a look at this, make this smaller, just open my QGIS project in the background, make that smaller. And what are my categories? Okay, so 1 to 5, 1 up to 5 is white. Okay, so there's a heck of a lot of boreholes that are sitting in the white category. And then 5 to 10 would be these ones here. Okay, so there isn't really a 10 to 15 category. So we could actually probably go in here and choose better colors. Why don't we do that just to make it easier? So I'm going to go, let's go 1 to 2.5. I'm going to drag this off to the side so I can see those values. So I'm going to go back into my project, not that project, this project. Okay, I'm going to go back into my symbols for the boreholes, and I'm going to change this to equal interval, and then maybe actually just double click in here and just say 2.5. Okay, so 2.5 to let's call it 5 to 5, and then 5 to 10. 5 to 10, okay, and then 10 to 20. Okay, I'll apply that. Let's change slightly, and it should look a lot better. So I'm just going to do this once again. So I'll drag my table across so I can see what's happening, and I want to add that there. Okay, so now that little yellow goodie, I'm just going to remove as well. I don't want that to be yellow, so I'm just going to change that. Okay, so now it is 1 to 2.5. So all of these, 1 to 2.5. You can go choose a background color. Oh, it's white already. That's fine. And then 4 to 5. 4 to 5 is like that light pink. And I guess this is where you're going to have to fiddle with the colors. That actually looks pretty close. Okay, the next one is slightly redder, so it's 5 to 8 will be very similar. I just choose that one and slightly darker. I think actually I've got to choose the lighter one. So if I choose this one, okay, whoa, that's all of them. I don't want to do that. I just wanted to choose these ones at that color. And then these are actually, these need to be slightly lighter if I have a look at that. Maybe that one there, let's say. And then these ones can be full red. And you can choose your own colors here. But now you get an idea. So now this matches up with that. Okay, but so that looks quite a bit better. So what you can then do, depending on your image package, what I can do is I just come in here, I select all of that, I say copy. I go into my little image package. Hello, where is it? It's not turning on. Okay, there we go. Now it's opened. So now I just want to make sure I copy that. And in this image package, I can say new, and it automatically gives me a little board size. Yes, save. Then I just say save as. I go and save it as a PNG or a JPEG. That's really, I mean, the format, that's all up to you. And it is Burundi projects, Bukamba, data images, and I'll just call this table. Okay, so now that's saved as an image. We can just go back in here and add it as an image. So we just go into here. We can maybe stick it at the bottom down here somewhere. It's probably going to be a bit bigger than that, but we'll adjust the size once we bring it in. So search for the image source. Projects, camera, data, images. And it hasn't come in yet because I just need to say OK over there. Okay, now I can go back. I should be able to go back and add it. There it is. Add. Okay, and at the moment it looks a bit funny size-wise. Make it a bit bigger. So I can remove it. Let's just drag this one off down here. Put this one at the top. So that's another way to do it. Okay, that doesn't look that great, so I'll just select that and then maybe just pan this down a bit so you can see more of the boreholes. This wouldn't be a great place to put this either. That can be over there. It can have a boundary or border, something like that. This you can also give a border actually, if you want to. Actually, it does. It's not really critical. In fact, I'm going to take that border off. There we go. Okay, so that's a second way you can add a table using the same colors and categories for the yield to a layout. Okay, so hopefully that is going to set you on the way to getting what you need done.